Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's episode number 87 of the Audible Farm Podcast, and this episode is brought to you by Corrosive Screen Printing. Corrosive Screen Printing has actually made all of the shirts for Audible Farm. They made all of our shirts and our hoodies, which is really awesome. We just got a new shipment of shirts in, and the hoodies are starting to sell down, so if you want some, you better hit us up. And if you want your own t-shirts and hoodies, you better hit up Corrosive Screen Printing. The reason I like Corrosive is this. I sent them the logo and I said, hey, alter it this way. I want it to look like this. Do you have these kinds of shirts? What do those feel like? Do you have a darker color? Can I get it in this? And they helped me through everything, no matter how difficult I made the process for them. They, from step one all the way till finished product, they were there for me, helping me out, and it has been an amazing process. And I wouldn't have shirts if it weren't for them. It's as simple as that. I know Corrosive Screen Printing has made shirts for bands in the Iowa area for the last 5 years or so. That's a little bit of a guesstimate on the time frame, but I know they've been at it for a while, and they've been recently. I know they've been making shirts for people for quite a in the band scene for quite a while. I know there's a lot of bands that have been, hey, I got this shirt. We just got it. Shout out to Corrosive. So hey, if you're looking for a shirt for your band, or maybe just looking for shirts for fun, or you never know, hit them up. They can print you one shirt. I'm sure that'll cost you a little more, but they can print large orders, small orders, 25 shirts, whatever you want. They can make you as many shirts as you want. And I gotta say, huge shout out to Corrosive for doing all of the hard work for us and making the shirts, so that way we can give you guys some awesome shirts. Man, those t-shirts are soft too. Huge shout out to Corrosive. And not only that, we got to give a huge shout out to our guest this week. Our guest this week is Andrew Chipman. Andrew Chipman is the roaster at Couchtown. He's usually the one sponsoring the podcast. And guess what? This week, we've got a different sponsor. Why? Because Andrew's on the podcast. Andrew's joining me this week. We are talking about all sorts of stuff. Did you know that he plays drums? I never talk about that in the podcast because he's the coffee guy. But guess what? Now he's on the podcast. We sat down and we talked, and we get to talk about how did he get started playing drums, and it turns out he comes from a musical family. He's really actually it's kind of neat. He's just one of those hobbies that took over kind of guys as far as music and coffee. It's really cool to hear some of the stories that come in here because I've never heard them, and I've interacted with Andrew a decent amount over the last year, and it's like I said, it's really neat to hear that all the stories about his dad playing music and him playing in churches and other places. It's really cool. So I got to say, this episode is going to be one of my favorites. Andrew's a great guy. Like I said, I've touched base with him here and there. We kind of met by, I wouldn't say happenstance because I was looking for a sponsor, but we got put into touch, and then it turned out that we're kind of close to from the same area, and it's just really neat. It's really neat. So support local, check them out. If like I said, check out Corrosive Screen Printing, and if you guys have not checked out Couchtown Coffee yet, check them out. We're going to talk about Andrew and his musical endeavors in the upcoming minutes in this podcast, as well as touch base a little bit on that delicious black gold that I like to call Couchtown Coffee. That's my favorite coffee, and Andrew has kept me fueled for the last year plus. So I got to say thanks, Andrew, for doing all that, and thanks for taking time out of your day to do the podcast. And once again, I'll give a shout out back to Corrosive for sponsoring this week's episode. So let's get after it. It's episode 87 with Andrew Chipman.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
All right, today I'm sitting down with Mr. Chipman, Andrew Chipman, that is, and you guys might have heard this name before on the podcast. Andrew, you are the coffee roaster that supplies the masses.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are the roaster over at Couchtown, and that's actually how I got in touch with you originally. I was looking for a sponsor, and I needed some coffee, so I hit up some coffee people, and you were the one. You were the one. Out of literally about a dozen people I contacted, you were the one. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. crazy thing, when you reached out, I was like, wait, who is this guy? At first I was like, am I getting scammed here or something? And then did a little looking around at your profile and stuff, and
Facebook creeping
me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, that was super cool, and it's been fun to kind of be a part of it.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, I gotta say, I really appreciate the fact that, I'm like a local podcast, and I mean, it's not like we're going to get too many sponsors on the podcast, but it helps, give an air of officialness. And not only that, but it's for a product that I severely enjoy. I drink coffee every day, and honestly, yours is the best. I've said it before on the podcast in the intro and the outro, but very seriously, it's my favorite coffee. As a matter of fact, I just made an order with you, and I never order in time, so there's always like a lapse of a few days between Couchtown batches that I get. So I'm always like refining my palate with the cheapest, grossest coffee I can find at the store, just to remind me how good Couchtown is. Oh man!
Yes.
And I don't remember
awesome.
I don't remember who put us in touch, but the more I got to know you, I realized you yourself are a musician as well.
Yes.
Yeah. We were talking about how you play drums, and how'd you get started on the drums?
Well, I actually got started on the trumpet. And,
cool.
Yeah, so I started playing trumpet, I think I was in 6th grade or 7th grade.
All right.
I wanted to get into the band. Some of my best friends were in the school band, and looked like they were always having fun when they went to practice and all that. And so I wanted to be a part of the fun and talk to the instructor, and I kind of wanted to be in the drum section, the percussion section. And he's like, well, you got to read music. I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Haven't taken any piano lessons or anything. So he's like, well, we can do some summer lessons on the trumpet and get you started there. So, and I actually took to trumpet pretty quickly and enjoyed it. So I just kind of stuck with that. However, so my dad is a musician, has played drums, guitar, bass, piano, done lead vocals and all that. Grew up in the 70s, so he had a lot of exposure to the music scene of that day.
Yeah.
And so whenever he was in music stores, I'd go with, and I was always drawn to the drums. So one day we were in Minneapolis, and I think it was a Guitar Center up there. So we were visiting my sister, went to the Guitar Center with him, and I forget how the conversation went, but somehow I talked him into getting me a drum set.
Oh, whoa. Coolest dad ever.
So yeah, we went home with seriously. So yeah, we went home with what was it? Pearl Forum series, like the entry level.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a great kit, and I still got it. And that was my first drum set.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's actually a really fun story that, it seemed like it was predestined having a dad that was so busy in the music scene growing up that you would probably end up playing something that was, band related, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it that drew you to the drums, do you think? Was it, were you like always banging on pots and pans when you were a kid, or did you see your dad playing them once and you were just like, this is awesome, I got to try this? Or were you watching videos of some guy drumming online?
I think probably my first introduction to them was when I was a very young boy. I don't know, probably 5 or 6, maybe a little older. We had some relatives in Manson, Iowa, and I would go and visit them. It was my aunt, so my dad's sister, and her son lived there. So I would go down and visit them. Her son's quite a bit older than me, and he had a drum kit in his room. And so he wasn't around a lot, but she would let me go into his room and play on those drums every once in a while.
Nice.
I distinctly remember, like, one day I was going kind of berserk in there, and she came in and was like, you need to stop playing. And she was being like super nice about it. She's like, I got a headache. You need to stop. So, I think I was hooked at that point, but never really got into it until middle school or thereabout.
So this first drum set you got then, was this like you got a drum set and you'd never really sat behind one and practiced on one yet then?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had literally zero knowledge of, how to play. And the other thing I think that kind of influenced me was my brother-in-laws. They were both brothers. My sisters married brothers.
Yes.
And
Really?
one of them,
Well, that's cool.
yeah, 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 kind of crazy. So one of them was actually a really good drummer. Did a lot in, high school and that. And so when he was dating my sister, or they were, in the same friend group, I kind of knew him from, family gatherings and all that kind of thing. And, watched him play, and he did he wrote a drum solo for his senior project and played that at a high school concert. And
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know, it just really influenced me. And, so when I got my first kit, he was one of the first people to kind of show me around the kit and give me some pointers on where to start.
Oh, that's really cool. So that's not too much unlike my story. Like my sister, when I was growing up, was dating a guy that played guitar, and I was like, dude, this is so cool. And he kind of, helped me out along my way, helped me, pick out my first instrument or, this is how you could play this, or this is how you play that. Or, I remember him showing me how to play Detroit Rock City once on the guitar. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, And, it's just one of those things. I think when you're growing up, you're influenced by the people around you so much. And I wonder if that's why so many people like us get into music or what exactly it is. But, I think that's something else a lot of musicians forget is how much influence they may or may not have on people around them that they don't even know that they have, just on the fact that they can do this cool thing,
Right.
So how did you go from not knowing anything to knowing something? Did you first play AC/DC, or what kind of stuff did you play? Or did your dad play with you, or how did that all go down?
Sort of organically started to play with him. So he had, when I got the kit, he had just started back into writing and recording again, which he hadn't done in, I don't know, probably 25 or 30 years at that point. So,
all right,
he'd been out of it for a while. And so there wasn't a ton of us playing together at that point. But my brother-in-law, well, both of them actually, this is the era of LimeWire and BearShare and all that, right? So they had massive libraries of, Metallica and I don't know, just a bunch of other sort of approachable songs for drums. And so, yeah, I kind of learned by listening. And honestly, Ben, my brother-in-law, had a lot of pointers on just, how to pick up on songs and start to learn them. So that's kind of what I did. I just started listening really close and trying to learn that way. I did a lot of messing around with friends too. They would come by and, we'd kind of jam a little bit, and it probably sounded like trash, but we were all learning. So it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, man. I still remember some of the first times I ever played with other people, and it's like, everybody go home and learn this song. We're going to get together. We're going to try and play it. And even if it doesn't sound the best, you're like, this is awesome. It feeds the soul in such a weird way. It's like,
right.
This is definitely what I'm going to keep doing, and when did you end up playing? Have you ever played any shows, or did you guys end up playing any talent shows in high school, or was it all after high school?
Oh, well, we came close. So I started playing pretty regularly with a couple of friends, and we sort of formed a band. We didn't really have a name or anything like that. And we started to try to write original material, and none of us were very well trained in any of that. So it didn't go very far. And then later in high school, there was an opportunity for sort of a talent show type of thing. And we were also going to play at a graduation party. And so we actually put together a pretty solid set list of some Foo Fighters songs, some Jet songs, Incubus songs, some Weezer songs, just a bunch of stuff that was pretty, like I said, sort of approachable to play and appealed to a lot of our generation.
Yeah, definitely.
And we practiced for quite a bit in my dad's shed, and it was actually it's a ton of fun. Thinking back to those times, we were probably kind of frustrated at each other at times, but that sort of rehearsal was actually all we got to do together, because it came time to actually do a dress rehearsal, and a couple of us were just not comfortable with the songs yet. And so it kind of all fell apart, and we didn't end up playing, but it was still a good memory to look back on, at least.
Yeah, that's crazy because your story kind of parallels mine. Like the first time I ever played a show, it was just a bunch of us. We got together. We were like, we're going to play this song. And the song we decided to play that we got cleared by the school people to play, the closer we got to showtime, it was like, there's no way we're going to be able to play this song, so let's play a different song. So we played a different song, one that wasn't even on the bill. Fortunately, it worked out for everyone because there wasn't, we were all young and we were, kept our heads about us and didn't play anything outrageous, but I think we wanted to play like In This Diary, and instead we played Swing Swing. I mean, it's all just like pop punk stuff anyways, but I've told this story before on the podcast. Like, you can hear our classmates like laughing at us louder than you can hear us playing in some of the videos.
Oh, no.
It wasn't horrible, but it was also like wasn't the greatest thing ever. I mean, it's weird that like I feel like everyone's kind of got the same story where it's just the cold feet kind of get to you a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. It's tough to get over. I mean, I played in high school and stuff like that, and it took me 10 years worth of having cold feet to go out and play in public to anyone that wasn't a classmate of mine. So
right.
And I don't know. It's not like it would have gotten any worse. People weren't going to laugh at me in public like they would have at school, because school is notoriously tougher to play in front of those people and impress people, But
absolutely,
that's pretty crazy. So like the band doesn't end up playing in high school. Do you guys like break up this band and do something else, or?
Yeah, we never really got back together except for in college. In summers, every once in a while, we would just kind of reunite, and it was more of like a friends getting together and jamming, with no plans on playing a show or anything. And a couple of us had gotten actually really good during the break, if you want to call it a break. We were never really an actual band. But yeah, a couple of us had gotten really good. I don't know that I would include myself in that, but it was fun to kind of come back together, and there was a little more structure. It was a little easier to just kind of jam on some songs, and there wasn't a lot of like trying to learn it on the fly,
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I feel that too. I mean, there's so many solos where it's like, I learned 3/4 of this, I'll just guess the rest of it, and then it doesn't sound good. But that was me in high school, though. Like, I mean, it took me a while to get comfortable with my instrument, as it does with everybody. But like, how did you end up getting better at the drums then? Did you end up taking lessons from somebody eventually, or? Yeah,
actually. So, and I forget at what stage this was. I think I might have still been in high school. But I would actually drive back and forth once a week to Dean Davis's house in Fort Dodge. And he would try to refine my craft. We knew Dean through my dad. Actually, knew Dean from way back in the day. I think they had played a couple of shows together. Like, my dad's band opened for Dean's band, and Dean's band back then was huge in the Midwest. So Dad had always kind of looked up to him, and they had stayed in touch over the years, and Dad knew a lot of those guys in the Fort Dodge area music scene. So, found out that Dean was giving lessons and that he had an opening. So, Dean taught me a lot, and I kind of came to him very rough around the edges. Yeah. Because a lot of what I was doing to learn was just like sitting in my basement and trying out different beats and rhythms and things, trying to do things that were interesting to me, but nothing really structured as far as learning. So it was really cool to have some structure from Dean. And I would say I learned a lot from him. We didn't do a ton of lessons together, just timing wise. I was on my way to college and didn't have any plans to make a career of it, but it was still a lot of fun to learn from him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dean's still giving drum lessons in some capacity, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so. I think I remember hearing
It
somebody
wouldn't surprise me.
saying that they were taking lessons from him every now and then, like once a month or something like that, to kind of help polish him off a little bit. But
Absolutely,
that's crazy. I remember the first time I saw Dean play. He's doing the classic thing where he's keeping the beat with the snare and the kick, but then he flip-flopped them, and it was backwards for a little bit, and then he like effortlessly went back to the way it should be. And for a second you're like, this guy's playing on the wrong beat, and then you're like, oh no, what this guy did was brilliant. It is insanity how good he is at drums without, he's not like a pyrotechnician 40-piece drum set, 3-minute fill kind of a guy, but he's
deceptively smooth.
Yes, he's so tight, and just it's crazy. I never got to play with him, but I've been to a couple jam nights and saw him play, and it was wowing, to say the least.
Right.
I mean, he's come up a few times in the podcast. I've touched base with him a couple times. Kind of tough to track down, but I'm hoping to get Dean on the podcast sometime eventually.
That would be interesting. He's got a lot to share, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean,
he actually played on one of my dad's albums as well. He
cool.
Came up to Clarion and sat down behind the kit, and of course I was blown away. I'm like, geez, this guy makes it look effortless. He just he came in and nailed it in a couple of takes, and was like, okay, you got what you got, and head back to Fort Dodge.
Yeah, and that's the craziest part, is he doesn't look like he's working at all to make all of the sound he's making.
Right.
Yeah, it's wild. And I mean, Dean's such a great guy. He's so good at playing instruments. The drums, he's been a staple around the area. It feels like every musician around here knows Dean, at least in some form or another, in northern Iowa. So I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's crazy to know that your guys' paths have crossed, and how organically, like, the music scene is very large but very small as well.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
I guess I never realized it, but I mean, I didn't even meet you organically. I think somebody that was listening to my podcast suggested us to meet up. Yeah, and
was it my cousin Brad?
I think so. I'd have to look back. It's in one of the old posts I had made on Facebook, where I was looking for coffee places around Iowa, and somebody suggested you. But yeah, I think it was your cousin, if I'm not mistaken.
Brad, yeah, he's guitar player. Lived in the Des Moines area for quite a while. I think he's out in LA now.
Oh, cool.
If I'm not mistaken, unless he's moved back. But yeah, great guy.
Man,
excellent guitar player.
That's wild. So you take some drums from Dean, then what?
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking, Dean had recorded an album with your dad, and I know that you have been on an album with your dad as well.
Yes.
How far is the timescape between you and Dean and you and your dad recording an album?
It was actually right around the same time.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, my dad's first album, I only played on a couple of songs, I think. Most of it was like sequenced drums on a keyboard, and then a couple of live tracks. We just didn't have a ton of equipment to record live drums at the time. So any amount of live drums was just a huge undertaking for us at that point. So we recorded a couple of songs that way. Obviously, Dad wanted to try and make it a more of a friends and family thing. So he pulled in, a couple of other friends to help out on the album, which made it a really kind of a fun thing for us to have. It's not something that we would make a huge sale out of, but it was a lot of fun. And my dad has always said, it's something that he can pass down to me and my sisters, and then of course our kids, as here's the old man playing on on an album, and something that they can kind of treasure. But so yeah, that first album kind of turned into Dad really digging into that craft and refining it, and getting some more equipment to record live drums. And so we ended up doing a lot more of that over the next few albums, to the point where the last couple have been mostly live drums, and it's been a ton of fun. So in those cases, it was mostly me behind the kit, and that span is probably 10, 15 years between that first album and when we've done the fully live drum recordings.
Oh, that's crazy cool. I've listened to the album Trixie that you were on. That would have been,
Yes.
Maybe a few years ago. It looks like that was recorded. I never guess I really thought about doing this. I just pulled it up online, and it's available to stream online.
Nice. Yeah.
And it looks like your dad's got a couple of albums that he's recorded that are online to stream. Were you? I got 3 albums here I've found. We got Best Years. That was in 2002. Were you on that one?
Maybe.
I
I should have done my own research on my own stuff.
Dude,
I think
totally cool.
that was one of the early ones, so I would have been on it maybe on 1 or 2 songs.
All right. Otherwise, he had Gold Band Surprise. That was in 2007.
Yep.
Yep.
Same kind of deal there. Maybe a few more songs on that one. And then Trixie, it was mostly me.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's even a picture of you on the back album jacket on Trixie.
Yes.
Nice. Yep. Yeah. Dude, this is super cool. I mean, I knew your dad was a musician, and I knew he had some roots in the music scene dating back to, a while, but I didn't know that he was like cutting this many of his own albums and putting them out. That's really awesome, man.
More to come. More to come. We're
oh, snap. That's cool.
slowly working on them. Life has gotten a lot busier for me. So it's just a lot harder to get back home and have enough time to like learn a song, lay it down, and refine it. But we're working on some. So
that's awesome.
More to come on that.
Does your dad write most of the stuff, or do you guys kind of collaborate together on it, or?
So he writes everything. Every once in a while I'll, share some creative ideas on the drum tracks, but usually he comes into it with a pretty good idea of what he wants on the drums. And in fact, a lot of times he'll lay down a scratch track with like a drum sequencer. He's got, what's it called? Like Rhythm, or it's some software in Pro Tools.
All right.
It's actually really cool. You can kind of lay a drum track down. It sounds really close to live drums.
Yeah.
So kind of terrifying for guys like me that, like to play drums.
Yeah.
Oh man. But it's also very cool. It's a tool for guys like my dad, that he's essentially doing everything himself. So, if he wants to lay down a track with that, more power to him. But yeah, usually he comes in with a pretty good idea, and then we just kind of sit down and try a few things out together, and then land on something that he likes, which is kind of the most important thing. I'm there as just a worker bee in those cases. So
yeah,
land on something and then refine it, make it solid, lay down a few tracks or a few takes, and then pick one we like.
That's awesome. I mean, that's really cool. I do have to ask you, it looks like your dad plays all sorts of instruments. On the one album cover, he's holding 2 guitars and a bass, all in one album
Yes.
cover. Do you have any desire to learn anything other than drums, or do you secretly play guitar and you're not telling anyone?
So define play guitar. I mean, yes, I can pick around a few chords, but nothing to the point where I would be comfortable playing on an album. I picked it up when we had my first child, my son, and started to learn a little bit just because I was spending a lot of time at home with him, and I thought it'd be cool to, learn to play.
Yeah.
be like my dad, playing guitar. And I have very fond memories growing up of my dad playing acoustic, just sort of for the whole family. We would just sit around and listen to him play, and he'd sing various songs. Blackbird was our favorite request. that was one he always used to play.
That's
anyway,
awesome.
So yeah, I picked up a little bit, but yeah, not a ton. Drums has always been kind of my main instrument there.
That's cool. I mean, I think that a lot of people want to try their best to be like a multi-instrumentalist in some fashion. And, I mean, just testing the waters on another instrument. I mean, I can play the drums, but I can't play anything better than like an AC/DC rock beat, you know, but like
Right.
if somebody's over here jamming out, I can be like, hey, I'll hop on the drums and at least give you something, you know? So,
Sure.
so I can play them a little bit, but it's probably like the same concept for you with, you know, with the guitar. Like you could probably play along with people. You're probably underselling yourself, but you never know.
It's been years, honestly, since I picked up a guitar.
Ooh.
So yeah, I don't know that I would be of much help.
Oh man. Well, you picked the perfect time to start learning. Like who has more free time than when you first have a kid? Pause not,
Right.
you know, like
Right.
but you did have a point. I
Yeah.
mean, you're going to spend a lot of time at home, you know, watching the kid, and the kid's sleeping 47 hours a day anyways, so
Right.
but you know, that's
Yeah.
something else that's super cool is like just finding out that I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people that know a lot of stuff, at least in the music area. Like everyone has kind of dabbled a little bit in a little bit of everything, just because why not?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like I grew up and my family was not musical. Like, I mean, my mom played the flute in high school, like, you know, when she was in high school, ages ago or whenever it was. You know, it was like 7 years ago because my mom's super young and still awesome. No, but she played flute, and other than that, like nobody really played anything. And my sister grew up playing piano, and that was always something I was like, man, my sister like can play all sorts of crazy stuff on the piano. You know, she's like in third grade playing
Yes.
the entertainer and all this other nonsense. And it was like, well, how do you do that? And I'm still not good at piano. I can use the piano.
Same.
I can use it to like look at it and be like, these are the notes, and this is what this, like if you played in this would be the key. But as far as actually proficiently playing the instrument, I am absolutely horrible.
That's one thing I forgot to mention. Like the rest of my family is fairly musical, at least my immediate family. Both my sisters were excellent at piano. My oldest sister kind of gave up on it. I shouldn't say gave up on it. She just focused on other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah, the next oldest, actually did, you know, concert piano and all kinds of like contests and things. She was also an
Awesome.
excellent percussionist and vocalist. Like she was all stater and all that kind of thing. So I looked up to them, you know, growing up and seeing them succeed and just do really well in their various instruments and you know, vocals and all that. It was fun to watch. So I always felt like I had big shoes to fill there too. And my mom is an excellent vocalist as well.
Oh, cool. I was going to ask, like,
Yeah.
you can't leave your mom out of this. I bet she's got something going on too, you know?
She does. Yep.
That's
Yep.
awesome. I mean, I'm not assuming you guys were like the Von Trapp family orchestra or anything like
No.
that, but like,
No, far from it. In fact, most of the singing my mom would do was in church, but I have good memories of you know, sitting next to her and hearing her sing and being like, man, that's cool. I wish I could sing like that.
man, that's something I think a lot of people take for granted as well. Like, my parents never sang, like, ever at anything, like, you know, not even a little bit. And I mean, that's something I never grew up like even realizing that it was possible to enjoy music this much, because, you know, like my parents, they quit buying stuff when they quit making records, you know, because they were like, I'm not buying another format. And then CDs came out and they're like, what a ripoff, you know. And I was just kind of like, well,
That's awesome.
you know, and it's just the way that people are, you know. And it's
Sure.
it's one of those things I think about, like having a family that is musical and not scared to show it, at least not around not scared around each other to like sing or to play something or whatever. That's pretty cool, you know. I mean, not everybody has that available to them. You know, some people want to get into music and they've got to buddy up with somebody else or hit up a family like yours that everybody plays something and then swing over there and bother them while they're trying to do something, you know.
I never thought of it that way, but yeah, I mean, I had one of my best friends growing up, Jake. His parents, I don't think were that into music, or at least whenever I was around him, that didn't seem to be. And he was super into guitar, and so he would always come over and be like, "Hey, can I jam with you?" So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, some of that is like, are your parents going to be accepting of that too? I imagine as a parent, there's nothing more terrifying than one of your children being like, "We started a band. Can we practice in the garage?" Like, that's got to be
Right.
that's got to be the worst thing ever to hear as a parent.
His parents were very cool about most things, so he didn't have a lot of that to deal with. But I certainly get where you're coming from. I think there was a couple other friends of mine that their parents were more like, "Yeah, that's fine, but you're gonna have to get a real job when you get out of when you get out of high school or whatever."
Yeah. I mean, I totally get that too. It's crazy to think that there are still musicians that can function in today's age that are like 100% of their money is coming off of music. A lot of them,
Right.
you have to diversify where they're giving lessons and then they work in a music shop and then they're also playing in a band. So everything is like literally everything revolves around music all day and night for these people. But it's sad to say that like in today's day and age, it's almost impossible to make a decent living off of just playing music, and that's unfortunate.
It is. I mean, it's like winning the lottery to make a decent living off of it without having to work your butt off.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, even then, I'm assuming that like there's still a large amount of work that's involved that we're short selling, because it's not like
Sure.
not like it's just like, oh, magic, you're good, and now you're amazing at an instrument that too, and so there's work that's involved, but it is kind of sucks, I did see an article not too long ago though that sales from independent musicians were actually very close to rivaling sales from like industry musicians. So, like, if they totaled up all of the independent music sales that were coming from labels that weren't major labels, it was pretty close to the total of major label sales. So that's pretty cool. But you also gotta think like there's 9 artists signed to the biggest record labels, and there's 4 million bands in Iowa alone that are included in that total of not major. So I mean, there's a little bit of discrepancy there as far as an unbalance and where the money goes. Is like, does this ever something you thought you would want to try? Was making music for a living, or were you like, all right, I'm going to go to college and do this instead, and always have this as like a hobby?
I think it was always going to be a hobby for me. Certainly, like every teenage boy that picks up an instrument, I probably had dreams of like being discovered or whatever. Hitting the road or whatever. But I think in the back of my mind, I was kind of like, well, if worse comes to worse, I'll go to college and do the whole IT thing, and this will be an awesome hobby. I got a little taste of kind of how fun or maybe not fun it might be. Because talking about how much work it is, like that's a thing. There's a lot of work involved, and so kind of going back to when did I play a show? The only shows I've actually played were with my dad that I can think of, unless you count. I drum for the church, so it's not really a show, but certainly a production.
That's where I actually cut my chops, was at a church. So
yes, absolutely.
I say that to anyone. If you're first learning an instrument, a great place to learn it is at a church.
Oh man, and I'll get to some of the tools they have there that just I don't know. I love playing there because it kind of makes it easy, at least from my perspective. But I played at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Okoboji.
That's awesome. That is super cool.
So that was a ton of fun. We had a ton of rehearsal leading up to that though. And it was hard work. We had a short set because we were one of many bands being inducted. I say I wasn't obviously being inducted.
So
the drummer for the band, it was Fifth Generation was the band being inducted.
All right.
So it's a couple of my dad's best buds from kind of the Manson, Glidden area, as well as Iowa City and that. So, guys he had kind of grown up in the music industry with, and they needed some help in the guitar area and the drums. So we came to help out. And then let's see what else. One of his buddies played like a big show every year for like a Christmas show in the Quad Cities.
All right.
So I played with them a couple of times.
Oh, cool.
And that was fun. But yeah, all of those things, like these one-off, little shows were a ton of fun. But like leading up to that, there was so much time and effort put into rehearsal and learning all these songs. And so it gave me a taste of like, yeah, the adrenaline of like actually playing the show. And if it comes off right, then it's like super fun and really rewarding. But if not, then you've put in all this work for, a dead audience.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's also very tough playing a one-off show. It's a lot to ask somebody to say like, hey, sit down in your own time and learn all this stuff and then join up with us every week for the next 5 or 6 weeks. And then we'll hammer all this stuff out and
right.
It's got to sound good. I've played a couple.
Right.
I've played a couple of those too. It's more work than actually being in a band and staying tight with a band. Like
I would assume so.
100% honestly, like because you can go an hour a week with a band and almost not even practice at home and be all right. It's possible, but I guess it depends on how intricate the band is. But like I don't know. I spent so much time practicing for one-off shows by myself. I spend more time doing that in the last couple years than time I've spent actually like trying to play the shows I normally play on like every other weekend with like Three Finger Betty or whatever. But it's
right.
It's crazy. Like I've played the Rockin' Picnic one year. I put together a little mini band just for one show, and that was plenty hard enough just to do that. And it's not like it's impossible, but like you said, there's a lot of time involved. You got to get used to other musicians you're not used to playing with. Everyone's kind of, like the bassist and you got to learn how to sync together, and then everyone's got to get, line up their fills with the drum fills,
right.
And it takes a lot of work.
Yep.
It's also crazy you played the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's
I know.
That's like one of those secret dreams of every musician.
That was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
They had a pretty good turnout, and so the keyboard player was kind of the lead of that band, and we had started with the set was supposed to start with this really syncopated beat, and I had practiced it, so I had it pretty well down, but he wanted to use the like the sequencing in the keyboard to play it through the PA. And I forget the name of the song. Anyway, it's like this really syncopated beat. The vocalists are clapping over it, and then they're singing this really tight harmony over it. Really cool when it comes off, exactly right. And his keyboard died.
Oh no!
So yeah, and we're like on stage, like they're ready for us to start. So he swears, and he turns around to me and he's like, "Hey, can you do that?" And I'm like, "Yep, let's go." And so we just tore into it, and it worked.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so that made it all the much more fun, But yeah, how lucky was I to be able to kind of be a part of that moment, and certainly something I'll look back on for the rest of my life as a truly awesome moment. Completely lucked out there.
Well, I don't know if it's lucked out, but I mean, you gotta attribute some of that to skill. But I mean, that's some of what it is. Like when you're under pressure, can you perform?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like,
true.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were saying that golf is the hardest sport because it's like a really slow meltdown that this person can have, over the last like 5 or 6 holes when the pressure's on, and you
I
just
can understand that.
and you just have to take it while you like walk a mile and everyone's staring at you and you're just sucking. And that's kind of what it's like on the stage if you're like on the fly and you're like, all right, here we go, let's see if this works. And if it doesn't work, it's usually a slow death. It's
right.
It's just like, oh, now I have the whole song still to go. Oh man.
And I've been on the other side of that.
I think we all have.
And then I play at church.
Mm-hmm.
So I play at the Lutheran Church of Hope in Ankeny.
Oh, cool.
Which, if you're familiar with it, they have a pretty good turnout every Sunday, and honestly every Saturday night too. And so it's kind of a big audience to play to. It's kind of nerve-wracking. And I remember that first show, or not show, the first service I played, I was sweating bullets because I hadn't played, live for years. I had plenty of time to rehearse, but we only played together as a band twice. We only rehearsed the songs really, really twice all the way through. So like we're getting up there and it's live, we're ready to go. And I'm just, a ball of nerves.
Oof.
And I dropped the sticks twice.
Oh no. While you're playing?
Like, yeah, just completely like in the middle of it wasn't like a drum break. So oh man, it was bad. And my parents are sitting in the front row and my wife and kids. And I'm just like, oh, this cannot be any worse. And then it happened again.
That's good that you can laugh about
but anyway,
it now.
It's been fun since then. Oh yeah. And honestly, that's kind of it's a different setting, right? People are pretty gracious there.
Yeah.
Kind of by nature. So
yeah, I mean, people are forgiving at a church. Go figure,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but it was easily one of the most fun I ever had was playing at a church because it was like that weird shield of like people aren't going to be like judgmental of me here or my playing abilities because even if people know I'm just learning, they're like, oh well, go for it. I'm not up there doing it. And people are pretty willing to let a lot of things slide. Like I remember, like I don't know, we played in like some youth style services and things like that when I would play, and it's like, all right, I'm busting out distortion on this song, and it's like, does distortion really fit in any church song? No, but they'll let it go, and it happens, and I still recommend to everybody that has the ability to play at a church, go for it. It's tons of fun. It also kind of taught me how to like play on the fly because I grew up going to a Baptist church. So at Baptist church, it's like, all right, let's sing the first verse, and then let's sing the chorus, and then the person, oh, hey, let's sing the chorus again. That sounded good. So you sing the chorus again, then you sing the second verse, and then you sing the chorus, and then it's like, well, let's sing the first verse again. Let's really let them hear it, and so you're always like on the fly, like waiting for the person to be like, oh, we're going to here, and you have to change and know exactly when and where you're going to change.
So true. And that was one of the things that intimidated me the most, because I had been going to this church for a few years, so I knew that they did stuff like that. And they would just like call an audible and say, all right, we're going to reprise whatever. And then the band would just like pick up and go. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to myself, watching that, like, wow, I'm glad I'm not up there because I wouldn't be able to follow that for anything. But, you do kind of learn how to keep up with that stuff. And a lot of it was just like, me studying the songs. I think that helped me get more comfortable, like with where to pick up and all that. But
yeah. I mean, just like anything else, it gets easier the more you do it, I guess. But
sure.
I mean, that should be a given. But at the same rate, I feel like that's a common thing that comes in here. Like nobody ever gets good not practicing. That's been like the common point that have been made in every podcast. How'd you get good at this? Well, I practiced a bunch, and it's like, oh, okay. So you can't just sit at home. Can't just sit at home and eat Cheetos and expect to get really good. So how do you go from being a drummer guy to being a coffee guy? I got to ask you that.
Well, you just have to have an insatiable appetite for learning stuff, and then accidentally come across coffee roasting. That's kind of how it started. I I don't know. I started drinking coffee kind of after college, and it was crap, and I drank it for the caffeine only. Like, I was just drinking swill.
Yes. Yes.
And I kept like looking for ways to make it taste better without really educating myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of my friends in Iowa City was like, well, why don't you try roasting your own coffee? Like, it's so much easier to get a good tasting cup of coffee if you roast your own, you brew your own and all that. And I'm like, okay. And I was kind of like, I don't know, disbelieving. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But then finally he convinced me. He's like, just go to a local coffee shop that roasts their own and see if they'll sell you a pound of their green beans, and then take that home, put it over a campfire in a cast iron skillet, and stir it until you hear 2 sets of cracks, essentially, and until it looks right. And so I did, and it tasted amazing. I'm like, okay, I'm hooked.
Okay, you said green beans. That's uncooked, unroasted coffee beans, not green beans.
Oh, correct.
Yeah, you're not
sorry.
like getting you're not getting a can of green beans. And
right,
this makes really good coffee, actually.
No.
That's the
green,
secret.
Unroasted coffee beans.
That's the secret of Couchtown coffee. Is it comes from the Valley of the Jolly. Ho ho ho,
Right.
Green Giant.
Yeah,
No,
funny.
no, but I would have never ever thought of that in a million years. I don't know why. Like, to me, it just seemed like coffee roasting's. It's got to be hard. It's got to be like super difficult. Otherwise, everyone would do it, right? And
Actually, it's not. That's the surprising thing, and I think that might be the reason for such a boom in recent years of local roasteries turning up, which is awesome for the industry, because I think getting people more access to fresh coffee is starting to kind of open people's eyes to, this can be a tasty drink. It doesn't have to taste like ashes and water.
Yes.
It can.
Oh my gosh.
Can taste good.
Literally everything I've had since I've had Couchtown coffee just tastes like it's burnt. And I like dark coffee. I always have, but it just tastes like they just roasted it until it was dead.
And that's kind of how a lot of coffee roasteries did it for so long. And I don't really know the reasoning why. For whatever reason, people used to equate dark roast with high quality, when in fact you're essentially cooking out all of the flavors.
Yes.
So a good dark roast that tastes good is actually probably, by most people's standards, more of like a medium to medium dark. It's still got plenty of that flavor, but it's also got some of the interesting kind of roasty flavors at the end as well. So
yeah, I mean, I remember the first time when you and I contacted each other, and it was like, what kind of coffee you like? I was like, I like it dark. And then you roasted it for me. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be dark enough or whatever. And I went home, and it was like the best coffee I'd ever had. And even then you still like roasted some even a little bit lighter than that. And you're right. It's 100% like the flavor of the coffee definitely comes through. And I always thought to myself, like exactly like you said, darker the coffee, the better the coffee. And it's going to be, that's, like man's coffee or whatever cliche you want to throw down, I drink it straight, and it gets hotter than heck. And it's going to, my mouth is made of leather, and whatever, all that nonsense. Then all of a sudden you start French pressing some good coffee, something that somebody has roasted that hasn't been pre-ground and sitting on a shelf for months on end. And it's like, I didn't realize it could taste this good.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I think the thing that encouraged me the most was like the people that would taste it, and they would say, going into it, they would be like, I don't really drink coffee, but they're a guest in my house, so I'm going to make them drink some coffee, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't really drink coffee. So I'd give them, like a small cup of it, and have them try it. And I'd beg them to try it black first. And they would try it, and they'd be like, oh, that's actually really good. Like, one I remember was my sister, like, always drinks it with, like, she likes a little bit of coffee with her cream,
Yep, yeah.
And, she had it at my house and was like, that tastes great. I could drink this just completely black. No creamers, no oils, no nothing.
Yeah.
All right. That's what I'm talking about. So
Exactly.
that was kind of what started me down the path of, maybe starting my own business and taking it to a wider audience.
I think the crazy part about that is also this. So, like, I'm not trying to say, like, I've got so fancy with my coffee that blah, 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 blah. But, like, I started drinking Couchtown, and I always used to, like, go to gas stations, and it's like, do they have half and half? Because I am going to load this baby down with half and half to dilute the
Yeah.
coffee and make it more palatable. And it's always super acidic and all this other nonsense. So it's like, I'm just going to load this thing down with half and half so I can drink it or whatever. But then I started drinking your coffee. It was a lot better. And then I thought to myself, well, what if I throw some like half and half in this? Will this taste, different? So you throw a little bit of half and half in there. And I feel like the flavors actually accent one another as opposed to using half and half to cover up coffee,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's plenty of studies that have been done on this that, and I don't know, people on the listening to this are probably going to ruin my science, but I think this is how it works. There's something about the proteins in the milk that interact with the coffee, and it actually like makes it taste sweeter. So yeah, you're absolutely right. With good coffee, that can certainly be a good combination.
Yeah, actually, I just Googled it, and there's a bunch of actual scientific pages saying there's an effect to the bioavailability of chlorogenic acids. So I don't know. There is something that
Sweet.
will affect the way that it tastes when they are put together. So yeah,
I call that a win. I
Yes.
almost nailed some science there.
there we go. We just scienced it up on a non-science podcast. Oh, that's actually really cool because I mean I've heard about back in the day people used to do like egg shells in their coffee, or like my grandma even used to do like what they called egg drop coffee, where you'd like literally just crack
Yep.
an egg and throw it right in the grounds and brew it that way. And
Yep.
it does make it taste a lot smoother and better. And it was always weird because it was like a special occasion thing when my grandma made that, because otherwise they're not going to waste an egg if you're not going to eat it,
Right.
And
Right.
that's just the time they came from. But it's also cool to learn that some of these things actually have an actual scientific purpose to them. It's pretty wild.
There's a lot of different ways to prepare coffee, and a lot of them can turn out excellent. But I think the key is to start with something that's going to taste good on its own, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I've tried, a few different things with just the off the shelf stuff, and to varying success. But once I started roasting, and I'm not saying like I'm a super good roaster, like this is just, the fact is like once you roast it and it's fresh, like if you roast it to the point where it's not just completely ash, then, and it's fresh, it just tastes delicious if you like coffee.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to try it myself, but at the same rate, I don't know if I've got the time to pick up a new hobby. Plus, like, the coolest part was I actually got to see your roasting process. You've got an actual roasting machine that helps you roast stuff, and you started out like OG style. I mean, originally I think you said you started out in a fry pan, and then
Yep.
you went to something on a grill. So you were really being using ingenuity. You were ingenuitively there's
Right.
you're using a lot of
Yes.
ingenuity to do this.
Yes. And it was a lot of fun. Honestly, I enjoyed the process, and that was kind of, I think, why I stuck with it was, starting out, it was just for me and my wife to drink coffee, and it was for us to drink good coffee.
Yeah.
And slowly I just started to try and like, okay, how can I increase my batch size so that I don't have to do this like every day?
Yeah.
And the grill was kind of the next logical step. Of course, there's tons of people out there that have built these homegrown roasters from their barbecues, and there's a ton of awesome builds out there that are kind of fun to look at. Mine was pretty simple. I just had a rotisserie unit that I attached a hand crank to, and I hand cranked the coffee out there on the driveway for a few years, honestly, before I decided to buy a real coffee roaster.
God, that's crazy. I mean, from a hobby all the way to actually turning this into a small business and turning it into a small form of revenue for you is wild. I commend you for taking the dive into this. And I mean, it seems like you're not too much unlike a lot of the other people I talk to, where you've got this cool hobby that you like, and then you just take it to the extreme. And man, I really got to say I appreciate it. I don't think people realize how much coffee I drink. I'm not trying to say I like drink insane amounts of it, but like when I was going to school and working and trying to pack everything into such a tight time frame, coffee was a necessity, and you came in clutch.
Oh, sure.
So
Nice.
I gotta say thanks. I mean, to anyone that's listened to this that's tried the coffee, huge shout out, because I know there's people actually buying the coffee from listening to this podcast and enjoying it and rebuying it too. And
it's awesome.
Yeah,
like that's the community that you have, like the people that have bought the coffee. It's actually been really cool. They've been great customers, and I want to say thank you to everybody that buys it. Honestly, for me, it is still kind of a hobby. It's a small business, but the reason I enjoy it so much still is because people love it, and I get enjoyment out of somebody telling me like, "Hey, I tried the coffee; it was awesome." And it's not so much about like the money for me. It's like people enjoy it and get something out of it. So that's fulfillment enough for me right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, you opened up my eyes to a whole new world of coffee. Because like I said, it was gas station coffee and lots of creamer. Half and half was my preference, but still, I mean,
Sure.
And now I turn my nose up at it. I'll drive past a gas station late at night and be like, I'll just deal with being tired,
My dad cursed me out the first few times I gave them coffee, because he's like, you've ruined me. Now I have to drink your good coffee. If I try to go back to the cheap stuff, I get a gut ache. I'm like, sorry, but
that's true.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, that's really true. I mean,
Yeah.
this isn't just like, hooray, Andrew's coffee's the best coffee in the world. Like, that is 100% serious. Like, if I told you, like, in between your batches, I will buy literally actually the cheapest coffee I can find at the store. And it's almost like a punishment. Like, you don't want to finish a whole French press anymore, and with yours, I'm looking to make a second one when I'm done with the first one. So,
well, I'll have to get you some emergency bags of coffee out as soon as I can then.
Yes, that's awesome. Dude, this is actually a great one. We ended up chugging out a whole hour here. I got to know you a lot better on the musical end of things because, like I said, you and I first interacted with each other as a small business to upstart small business, and we're just kind of farting around with a little bit of sponsorship, and it actually turned out to be pretty cool. You're from near my area. You've have ties into the music scene dating back. I mean, with your dad, it dates back years and years and years. So you've got a really close tie to the local music scene, and it's really cool to have somebody like you around that's willing to not only like sponsor something like this, but put out some awesome coffee. You're still a musician. You're still recording with your dad. It's all really cool, man. It's neat how it all came full circle. This is almost like a marriage made in heaven.
Well, it's been fun for me too, because prior to you reaching out to me, I had no thoughts about sponsorships or marketing or anything like that. I was just kind of, like you said, farting around.
Mm-hmm.
Then you reached out and were like, can I sponsor, or can you be a sponsor for the show? I'm like, never thought of that. That would be cool. And yeah, it has been tons of fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day. Cause like we said, you full-time job, coffee roaster on the side, family man, you've got a lot going on. You got a lot on your plate. And I just want to say thanks for doing everything you do. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Whoa. Andrew played drums with Dean Davis. That's neat. I knew Andrew's dad played music just based on the fact that Andrew gave me one of his dad's CDs once, and then I looked it up online. He's got multiple albums out, so check out Andrew. He's played in some of his dad's albums. Check that out. Otherwise, Heck of a drummer, heck of a good guy, heck of a coffee roaster. One of the finest in the land. If you guys like coffee, who doesn't like coffee? Everybody drinks coffee every morning. Check it out. CouchtownCoffee.com. Easily one of my favorite coffee companies I've ever encountered, ever, anywhere. And that's not hyperbole. That's not me being like, it's the greatest coffee ever. That's serious. It's some of my favorite coffee. And it just so happens that it comes from one of the nicest guys I've met in the recent past, Andrew Chipman. Great guy, very talented, plays music. Like I said, I didn't know that his musical endeavors went as far as they did. So it's really cool to hear that he not only, roasts the coffee for us and plays some music, but he's played around quite a bit, and maybe he hasn't played, 50 shows a year or whatever, but it's still really cool to know that he's played Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Heck, I've never done that. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that, but you gotta check it out. It's really cool. So hopefully down in the description sections below, I will have some links to some stuff that Andrew's played on, probably his dad's albums. We'll put something down there. Otherwise, there will be Couchtown Coffee information down below. And hey, he sponsored the podcast for like 50 some weeks. Hit him up. Check it out. Couchtown Coffee is the bee's knees. It's some of the best beans you'll be able to buy. So check it out. It's my favorite coffee. And, next time you buy some coffee, give Andrew a little wave from us. Tell him we sent you that way. And you never know, maybe he'll give you a little discount. Most episodes he sponsors, there's a discount code. So if you guys want to check it out, maybe tune into next week's episode and look out for a discount code. Otherwise, you guys got to trust me. It's the best coffee I've ever had. And that's, like I said, that's not a joke. That's not a hyperbole. That's not me exaggerating at all. It's the best coffee I've ever had. And he roasts it. I make it at my house. It's that simple. You don't have to go to the fancy places and get all the super fancy stuff. So I'm just saying, hey, check it out if you want to. Everybody drinks coffee, and it doesn't hurt to support local. So check it out, couchtowncoffee.com. Otherwise, check out the description section down below for more information. I hopefully will have some links to Andrew's music down there, playing with his dad, Tim. So check it out. Hey, I got to say thanks once again to Corrosive Screen Printing, keeping us in stock with shirts. Our first order was massive. We ordered so many shirts the first time. I was so nervous I wasn't going to be able to get rid of them all. And then, boom, they're all gone. Like, before you know it, boom, they're all gone. So I've re-upped. I've got more sizes now. I got everything from small to 4XL. So the people that were asking for larger sizes, I think I got you covered. So hit me up. I've got shirts for you. A little bit of an upcharge for everything, above the XL size, but it'll be worth it. These shirts are awesome. They're super soft. They're classy looking. It's one of those things it just looks so official with a shirt, and I'm willing to ship them. So if you guys want, contact us or any of audiblefarm@gmail.com or anything. Just hit us up. We'll find a way to get a shirt to you and ship it to you. I will also do deliveries if it's within reason and maybe on my way or something like that. So hit me up for a shirt. Shout out to Corrosive Screen Printing. I got a link for them down below, so check it out. They've got a Facebook, facebook.com. It is at Corrosive Screen Printing, so you can go facebook.com/Corrosive Screen Printing. You will find it right there. Like I said, it's one of the preferred t-shirt makers of the local bands around not only Des Moines, but outside of the Des Moines area. I know lots of bands have gotten shirts from Corrosive. So it's definitely worth a look. High quality stuff. If you like the Audible Farm shirts, hit them up. That's where I got them. Love you, Corrosive. I really appreciate everything you did for us. You're making us look really official here, and you're working within my time frame. That was the other thing, was they're really easy to work with. I don't always keep the greatest hours and things like that. And if I want to go pick the shirts up, can you meet me between these hours? Because that's the free time I'm going to have while I'm down. So they've worked with me very much in the last year or so, getting shirts and merch and things like that. So I really appreciate it. Check out Corrosive, great company. Facebook.com/Corrosive Screen Printing. There's a link down below. So check it out. And I gotta say thanks once again to Andrew Chipman. Thanks to everybody listening. Shout out to Corrosive. And that is this week's episode. Dude, it was good to sit down and talk with Andrew. I won't see any of you. You guys will hear me next week. That's that the right way to say it? I'll have another episode next week. We'll check you next week, everybody. Peace.